Hi everyone, I'm Walnut, and welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet VGC video. Regulation C is out, and that means Ruin Pokemon are now available, and I'm excited to use them. Chien-Pao and Chi-Yu are definitely my favorites. They both have some really cool designs, and the team we'll be using today features both of them and their respective partners, Dragonite and Fluttermane. In the last two slots I have Gyarados and Iron Valiant. This is a pretty preliminary team that definitely isn't perfect, but I'm going to be using it to see what I like and don't like, see what other people are playing, and then I'll decide on some changes. So first, I'll quickly go over the team, and then I'll show it off in a few battles, and lastly, I'll give my final thoughts. No rental or pace this time, but timestamps will be down below if you want to skip to the battles, and while you're down there, I would appreciate it if you left a like and subscribe to the channel. And leave a comment down below telling me which Ruin Pokemon is your favorite and why. Now, onto the team. Dragonite is banded with Terra Normal and has Extreme Speed, Outrage, Low Kick, and Stomping Tantrum. Most of the time I'll be clicking Extreme Speed and Outrage just to try to punch a hole into something as it hits way too hard, especially next to Chien-Pao, who drops everyone's defense. The other two moves are just coverage. Earthquake is probably my favorite move, but Stomping Tantrum lets me use it when next to something like my own Chi-Yu, who would not appreciate an Earthquake. Stomping Tantrum is a pretty neat move that doubles in power if your last move fails, whether it be a flinch, into an immunity, something like paralysis, or a miss, just not if it hits into a protect. So theoretically, I could Stomping Tantrum into my Gyarados if I was predicting my opponent to protect a turn, so I could double the damage the following turn. I don't know how often that would come up, but it is something to consider. Chien-Pao is fairly standard with a Focus Sash and Protect, Ice Spinner, Sucker Punch, and Sacred Sword. I have Terra Ghost, so I'm immune to my 4x fighting weakness and opposing Dragonite's Extreme Speed. I like Sacred Sword to hit Steel types who would be okay taking banded Extreme Speeds, but that does mean we miss out on moves like Throat Chop, Crunch, or Haze for Dondozo. Fluttermane and Chi-Yu are a powerful duo, and I also have Terra Ghost on Chi-Yu to avoid banded Extreme Speeds. It also lets me avoid Fake Out completely when these two are led together, and if I think my opponent will try to go for a Fake Out lead to set something up, I can lead these two and launch powerful attacks and potentially just get a double KO. Fluttermane is Life Orb with Moonblast, Shadow Ball, Dazzling Gleam, and Substitute, not Protect. Substitute is just something I wanted to try. It lets you take advantage of switches or protects, though this Fluttermane is weak to Snarls. Snarls bypass the Substitute to deal damage and drop my special attack, and since I have a Life Orb, I'll just slowly die behind the Substitute, but I feel like Snarls is becoming a little bit less popular, so it might be fine. I think I could consider dropping one of the Fairy moves for Protect, just because sometimes you want good old reliable, but right now I'm just running a max special attack, max speed EV spread, though I might adjust it to something bulkier later on. Chi-Yu is Scarf with 4 stab moves, Overheat, Heat Wave, Snarl, and Dark Pulse. Overheat lets you get some big KOs, and it's basically a guaranteed OHKO on opposing Fluttermane if they have no bulk. But in general, Chi-Yu just dishes out some crazy damage, and the Scarf allows you to outspeed basically everything unless you have a way to boost her speed. And the last two slots went to Iron Valiant and Gyarados. Gyarados is good into the Ruin Pokemon, Intimidate drops Chien-Pao's attack, Waterfall is good into Chi-Yu and Ting-Lu, and Terrifying Terra Blast or Taunt would work for Bo-Chen. And versus Ting-Lu, you basically wall them if they're running Stomping Tantrum, Fissure, Heavy Slam, and Ruination, so you can use that to your advantage to set up some Dragon Dances, and at +1 you'll outspeed Fluttermane and Iron Bundle, but not Dragapult. Gyarados is also nice into the Arcanine and Amoonguss that are running about. The item is a Lumberry, so you can eat Spores and Will-O-Wisps, and in testing I honestly liked it when Amoonguss would come out because it could set up a Dragon Dance when they were trying to get the Spore off, and then the following turn I'm pretty threatening at +1. Iron Valiant is here because I had some problems with stuff like Lilycole, so I put it here to wide guard. It should also have some good matchups into the Ruin Pokemon with Fairy and Fighting Stabs, and I'm running a physical set this time. I have Quick Guard as well. I put it here so I could protect my Pokemon against Extreme Speeds, Jet Punch, stuff like that. And Iron Valiant is Booster Speed, so you can just outspeed and threaten stuff with damage, and it hits really hard with base 130 attack. But yeah, that's the team I'm starting with. I'll give some final thoughts at the end of the video on which direction I might be planning to go with the team, but for now, let's jump into our first battle. My first opponent has Chi-Yu, Farigiraf, Iron Bundle, Garganacl, Great Tusk, and Fluttermane. So my opponent has that Farigiraf whose ability is Armor Tail, which will block priority moves from hitting their side. They also have Great Tusk's amazing defense, so I'm leaning away from bringing Dragonite and Chien-Pao in the lead. I'll instead bring Fluttermane and Chi-Yu. I think it's good into most of their mons, though I am a little bit worried about the opposing Chi-Yu and the Iron Bundle, because of its booster energy, it's going to outspeed my Chi-Yu. My opponent only has one physical attacker, and they also have Iron Bundle, so I don't think Gyarados is going to be the best into this matchup. It also doesn't appreciate Salt Cure from Garganacl. I think Iron Valiant would work well here. I just didn't think I would need the Wide Guard or Quick Guard, so I decided to leave it at home this time. So yeah, we're going to be bringing these two dangerous pairs, the Fluttermane Chi-Yu and Chien-Pao Dragonite. So prepare for trouble, make it double, and make it double again. My opponent has a very cute Rockruff in their trainer card. I almost can't even see it because it blends in with the background. And my opponent's going to be leading the Fluttermane and the Iron Bundle versus my Chi-Yu and Fluttermane. Of course, the Beads of Ruin from my Chi-Yu is going to drop everyone's special defense, so everyone's going to be hitting a lot harder, and Iron Bundle does have that booster energy speed, so it will outspeed my Chi-Yu. I'm going to go for a Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam here, and then a Heat Wave with the Chi-Yu. Could see them going for like a Hydro Pump into my Chi-Yu potentially, so I'm just going to potentially let it go down or just leave it as bait. I'm going to go for the Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam, and that'll KO their Iron Bundle at least, which will be good for the Dragonite in the back. The Terra Fairy also lets me take a Shadow Ball a little bit better. But yeah, they should be taking some pretty big damage this turn, because I don't think they can KO both my Pokemon. So no protects this turn, their Iron Bundle goes for the Icy Wind. It's going to drop the speed of both my Pokemon. So this Choice Scarf is kind of negated at this point. But we still outspeed their Fluttermane, so they have a really slow Fluttermane. Unfortunately, we miss the Heat Wave. Completely. They do go for a Shadow Ball into my Fluttermane, and we do survive. So this Dazzling Gleam should just KO their Iron Bundle. At least we've hit that. We can't miss the Dazzling Gleam. And my opponent's going to be sending in Garganacl next. I'm going to be switching out Fluttermane here. I can reset my speed, and it could be useful because I know it's faster than their Fluttermane. My opponent could very easily just go for a Wide Guard and then attack. They know I'm Scarfed because I outsped their Fluttermane at -1, and they can just pretty safely go for a Dazzling Gleam here and just KO my Fluttermane. So I'm going to bring in Dragonite here. It'll help me deal with the Garganacl a bit, and I still want to preserve Chien-Pao's Sash. Fluttermane's just going to protect this turn though, so... This Heat Wave's not going to be picking up the Fluttermane unfortunately, but it'll at least hit the Garg, right? Right? Of course it misses, and this Salt Cure is going to hit my little fishy. But we're going to be able to survive some of that Salt Chip. But these 3 Heat Wave misses is kind of sad for this little Chi-Yu. It's like worse odds than hitting 3 fissures, so... yeah, unlucky me. I'm gonna go for a Stomping Tantrum this turn into the Garganacl. Low Kick would do more, but if it's Terra Ghost or Terra Poison, I'm not gonna be very effective into that. They go for a Wide Guard this turn, so it's gonna block my Heat Wave, so Chi-Yu's 0 for 3. It's okay, we'll keep using Chi-Yu. I still love you. And Fluttermane is going to go for a Dazzling Gleam here. And it doesn't KO the Chi-Yu. We will be fainting to the Salt Cure anyways. And the Stomping Tantrum does about half to the Garganacl. They do have a leftovers though, so... I honestly don't expect the Stomping Tantrum to KO the next turn. Maybe it will, it could be a roll. But of course Chi-Yu will be fainting to the Salt Cure here. I know my Fluttermane outspeeds their Fluttermane, so I can bring it in this turn. I still want to preserve Chien-Pao's Sash in the back probably. Of course, Fluttermane is at 13 HP, and I do take 10% of my HP and Life Orb Chip, so only one more attack out of this Fluttermane. I'm gonna go for another Stomping Tantrum into their Garganacl, and then just Moonblast their Fluttermane. If they protect the Fluttermane, then my Fluttermane won't go down anyways, so it's probably fine. I didn't want to go for a Dazzling Gleam though, because if they do go for a Wide Guard or something like that, that would be pretty bad for me. By Moonblasting that slot, I just make sure that it's not able to attack my Dragonite. Fluttermane's able to just get off the Moonblast, no Protect or Wide Guard from their side, so RP their Fluttermane. We are gonna also faint as well, so almost like a Destiny Bond, kind of fake Destiny Bond. And Dragonite's gonna go for a Stomping Tantrum. But it's enough to pick up the KO. I honestly didn't think it would, but I'm pretty happy that it did. And now I'm going to send in Chien-Pao as my last Pokemon. It's going to be 2v1 in this endgame. And they're going to be sending in UU, which is like a fire Chi-Yu name. Like, I might even do a playthrough in a different language just to catch my own UU. This is amazing. I didn't Sacred Sword with the Chien-Pao this turn just because I was a little scared of a Terra Ghost since they have been saving it. So I just went for a Sucker Punch. I don't think they're able to KO my Dragonite at this HP. So I think a Sucker Punch and a Stomping Tantrum double up would be fine. I was trying to think about how I could still lose this game, but I feel like I should just win it unless I get super unlucky with like Burns and a perfect Terra type. I do go for the Terra this turn, and it's just Terra Grass Chi-Yu. It will be resisting the Stomping Tantrum, but it will be taking neutral from the Sucker Punch. They are going for an attack, and the Sucker Punch does plenty to the Chi-Yu. Unless this Heat Wave gets like a double burn, I should be fine. And it's also Life Orb, so they're also taking that extra chip, so maybe even if I got burned, I'd probably be fine to get the KO. So UU is gonna faint, and that's gonna be the first battle. It just showcased how powerful these Pokemon are. I mostly just clicked attacks and just dealt a ton of damage into their team. I think my plays were fine for the most part. I think that switch was pretty good too. The Heat Wave misses were unfortunate, so it ended up being closer than I needed to be, but yeah. One thing I really like about the Dragonite is that I do have the Multiscale, so I can switch into moves like their Dazzling Gleam. My next opponent has Fluttermane, Talonflame, Gholdengo, Annihilate, Meowscarada, and Amoonguss. So they have 3 Pokemon who Chi-Yu would love to just roast with the Heat Wave. I'll definitely be bringing Chi-Yu here. They also have a lot of Ghost types, so I'll bring Fluttermane as well. I also brought Dragonite and Chien-Pao again because the priority is one way you can beat Tailwind. It doesn't matter how fast you are if I just click Extreme Speed, but maybe Dragonite wasn't the best here because of how many Ghost types they have on their team. Talonflame could also run Terra Ghost if he wants to avoid Extreme Speed. I think I could have considered Iron Valley instead with Chien-Pao. With the Booster Energy Speed, it's honestly possible that you outspeed the opponent even in Tailwind. Like, Tailwind Max Speed Modest Gholdengo doesn't even outspeed Booster Iron Valiant, so that could have been Iron Valiant's time to shine. But I just went with Dragonite instead. Outrage would also do the trick here, I think, and Tailwind doesn't really matter if I go for Outrage, since with Multiscale I'll be pretty safe, and my Dragonite's pretty slow anyways. I didn't think this would be Gyarados' game because you would need a lot of Dragon Dances to outspeed the Tailwind, and the Intimidate might be bad into the Defiant. My opponent's going to be leading the Talonflame and the Fluttermane. And they have a Booster Energy on their Fluttermane, and it's Booster Energy special attack, so they'll be hitting about as hard as a Life Orb, assuming they're the max special attack. I'm going to go for a Overheat to KO their Fluttermane. I'm assuming that they're not bulk, though it's possible that they are bulky because it is Booster Special Attack. That means they aren't fully invested in speed. Shadow Ball should outcode their Talonflame if they don't have bulk, but if they do have some, it's probably a roll. But they go for one as well. So 2 Fairy Terras right off the bat. It also means that the Pokemon in their back can't go for any Terras. It's also pretty nice for me because now that the Flutter Mane is Terra Fairy, I can go for an extreme speed into that slot if I want to. Talonflame's going to set up the Tailwind here. But the Flutter Mane is going for a Power Gem, and Chi-Yu survives on 1 HP, clutching it up after the last battle that we showed off. And the overheat's enough to pick up the 1-hit KO, so good job Chi-Yu. That Power Gem was a roll to KO, but I don't think I'm going to calc for that because I think Power Gem on booster special attack Flutter Mane is kind of rare. And Flutter Mane's going to go for a Shadow Ball into the Talonflame, and it's also enough to pick up the KO. So they were able to set up the Tailwind and deal a lot of damage into my Chi-Yu, but I was able to pick up a double KO, which is pretty worth it. And my opponent's last 2 Pokemon are going to be that Annihilate and also the Goldango. So this turn I'm going to switch out the Flutter Mane here. Since they can't Terra, I know they're going to have to stay as Ghost type, so maybe if I'm able to stall out the Tailwind, I can come back in and Shadow Ball would be really good into these guys. I entirely expected them to just go for a Make It Rain with Goldango and then a bulk up with Annihilate, and that should just pick up a double KO. Chi-Yu is just going to use the move it's locked into onto the Goldango. I probably should have left them both in so I can preserve the Multiscale on Dragonite and maybe win that way. But yeah, we're mostly going to be letting Chi-Yu go down here for a free switch. We are going to lose the Multiscale here. I think I could have also considered just letting the Flutter Mane go down and then winning the game with Dragonite and Chien-Pao, but they just go for a Rage Fist into the Dragonite, no bulk up here. And Chi-Yu actually goes next and hits an Overheat onto Goldango for another 1-hit KO. It must have been a very slow Dango because it just got outsped in Tailwind by my little fishy. So now my opponent only has 1 Pokemon left and is this poor little Annihilate. I'm just going to click Outrage, it's always going to go into that slot, and I guess I'll switch out the Chi-Yu into Chien-Pao so I can deal a little more damage. My opponent's going to cancel the battle here though. I think my plans would probably find this game, but we did get pretty lucky with those rolls at the beginning. I think I'm pretty fine with that game plan though, because I Terra'd defensively for the Flutter Mane, not really focus on the Chi-Yu. I think the switch at the end was a little bit questionable, and I probably should have just let Flutter Mane go down, because I don't think Dragonite and Chien-Pao could probably survive that long to actually let Flutter Mane come back in after the Tailwind. But luckily Chi-Yu just outsped Goldango and just won me the game, so good job Chi-Yu. My next opponent has Chi-Yu and Chien-Pao as well, and Iron Hands, Flutter Mane, Annihilate, and Amoonguss. This time I'm not going to be bringing the same 4, so don't worry, it's not going to be the Dragonite, Chien-Pao, Flutter Mane, Chi-Yu every battle. I'm going to be bringing Gyarados instead of Dragonite. Gyarados is going to be in the lead next to Flutter Mane here. I think Flutter Mane is great into almost all their Pokemon, and the ones that Flutter Mane doesn't like, I can just stick Gyarados onto them. I thought about bringing Iron Valiant here, but I was really scared of the Amoonguss and Terra Grass Iron Hands for some reason and brought Chien-Pao instead last second. I don't think I had to be that concerned about Grass type since I do have Terra on Gyarados and Chi-Yu has Heat Wave and Fire moves. So I probably should have just brought Iron Valiant instead of the Chien-Pao. Iron Valiant speed would be really nice here against some of their faster Pokemon like Flutter Mane, Chien-Pao, maybe even the Chi-Yu if it's Scarfed. But yeah, instead I brought the Chien-Pao to hopefully to like Ice Spinner their Mons. The Sucker Punch could be useful too. The Secret Sword, not so much. Maybe into their Dark types if I need to. Like you can see how close I was to just locking in the Iron Valiant. I kind of wish I did because Iron Valiant does not have the best episode today, to be honest, and I want to give it some chances to shine. And they're going to be leading the Chen Pao and the Iron Hands, so no Annihilate, which is good for me. I don't instantly trigger a Defiant and, you know, make things a little bit harder for me. This Intimidate is really nice because that means their Chen Pao can't KO my Fluttermane with an attack. I could see them going for like a fake out and an attack here, but yeah, I did get my Intimidate on them, so my Fluttermane's pretty safe. I don't want to sub though, because if I do go for the sub and they do attack, I'm just going to bring myself into range of like a KO, so I'm just going to attack with the Fluttermane since I can't get faked out on that slot and protect with the Gyarados. I'm going to be Moonblasting into the Iron Hands because I feel like their Chen Pao could be going for Protect this turn. Chen Pao does go for Protect, but we're going to be matching that on Gyarados. There's no fake out though, so that means the Iron Hands is going to be attacking. The Moonblast does do a ton of damage into it, and they're just going for a Volt Switch. Luckily it was into the Gyarados slot, which was protected, so we're nice and safe. So we prevented their switch. We could have subbed that turn, but Dazzling Gleam here should KO their Iron Hands unless they go for a Grass Terra potentially, but I think even then I might pick up the KO. If you do survive, like Thunder Punch my Gyarados, but you lose your Terra for that, I'm gonna go for a Dragon Dance on Gyarados. I could have just went for a Waterfall into their Chen Pao, but they do have some fast Pokemon in the back, and a +1 Gyarados would outspeed almost all of them, basically. My opponent's gonna be using the Terra this turn, so if it's that Terra Grass Iron Hands, I'm gonna be a little bit sad. But no, it's a Terra on Chen Pao, and it's Terra Dark, so it's gonna be dealing a little more damage with that Sucker Punch, but I do have that Intimidate drop, so I should still be fine. And yep, we're able to survive on 10 HP after the Sucker Punch. Of course, after this Dazzling Gleam, we will be fainting to the Life Orb Recoil. But we're able to take out the Iron Hands before it can do anything. And Gyarados is just gonna dance, dance, dance. It's still at full HP too, which is really nice. And now we're going to be outspeeding their Chen Pao, we're going to be outspeeding their Fluttermane. I'm going to be sending in the Chi-Yu here, since Chi-Yu will also outspeed the Chen Pao and I can go for an attack with that slot too. They're going to be sending in the Fluttermane next. I'm ready to Waterfall that slot. But they have a booster energy. Please not speed. It's speed. So even after my Dragon Dance, I don't outspeed their Fluttermane. So I was scared of a Sucker Punch and a Moonblast into like Chi-Yu if I protected the Gyarados this turn, so I decided not to go for Protect even though I was expecting a Sucker Punch Moonblast into that slot. I decided to go for an Overheat into their Fluttermane and then just Waterfall the Chen Pao. My opponent is going to go for the Sucker Punch this turn, and it's into the Gyarados. And does plenty of damage even at -1. This Shadow Ball is also gonna hurt, and it's gonna crit and KO the Gyarados. It probably would have KO'd even without a crit, so RIP Gyarados, but that does mean she is able to get an Overheat off into their Fluttermane, and this should just get the one-hit KO. I think there's like a 1 in 16 chance that a no-bulk Fluttermane survives that, but that's pretty good odds. We're gonna be sending our Chen Pao in last. Our Chi-Yu is locked into Overheat and stuck on the field, so we're going to have to continuously eat special attack drops. And they're going to be sending in Annihilate as their last Pokemon. Annihilate can Drain Punch either of my Pokemon, and I know it wants to, so I'm going to go for a Terra Ghost on one of them. Unfortunately, I can only pick one, so I'm going to pick Chen Pao here. I want Chen Pao to live longer since the Overheat drops will mean Chi-Yu probably loses if Chen Pao goes down. Chen Pao also has the Focus Sash, so that means the Annihilate would have to Rage Fist me twice, and I'm going to go for a Sucker Punch into their Chen Pao just to finish it off, and I really don't want it to break my Sash or attack. Of course, if they go for a Sucker Punch of their own and they win a Speed tie, then my Sucker Punch won't go off and this will be a pretty bad position for me. If I had something like Ice Shard, that'd be really good here. But we're able to potentially win that speed tie if they also went for that Sucker Punch and pick up the KO on their Chien-Pao. That means our Chi-Yu is going to be living this turn. We can go for an Overheat. Overheat is going to land on the Annihilate and deal pretty good damage. That's at -2, so imagine how much that's doing at +0. And they did Drain Punch my Chien-Pao fortunately, so they don't get to heal up anything this turn. Now I'm going to go for another Overheat into them since I am just locked into that move, and I'm going to start clicking Ice Spinner. They could of course protect and get some more leftovers, but that's okay. There's not much else I can do. Chi-Yu's going to go for the Overheat, but it's going to miss on the Annihilate, which is very unfortunate. Ice Spinner is going to land, and that Overheat would have just picked up the KO. They're going to Drain Punch my Chi-Yu for all its HP. And heal up to a little bit below half, but that should still be in range of another Ice Spinner. Of course I do have my Ghost typing now, and I do have a Focus Sash, so this is a basically guaranteed win for me. I just have to keep clicking Ice Spinner. I'm pretty happy with this battle. In hindsight, I could have gone for that substitute on turn 1, but I didn't feel safe going for it, so I'm still fine going for that Moonblast into their Iron Hands. I could have gone for a Protect on that turn with the Chi-Yu and Gyarados, but otherwise I'm pretty happy with how I played. I think if I just protected the Gyarados and maybe went with the Snarl on Chi-Yu, actually maybe a Heat Wave would be better, because if I Snarl and they switch to Annihilate, that would be pretty bad. If they went for a Sucker Punch on that turn and won a potential speed tie, I probably would have lost the game, but that's only if they win the speed tie and go for a Sucker, and Sucker's not dealing too much damage into my team unless you are predicting that Terra Ghost on my Chien-Pao. Gyarados kind of got to debut, but it only got Intimidate. Unfortunately, I did not protect it well enough, so it did not get to show off some powerful attacks. But yeah, GG's to my opponent. That was a pretty close game. My next opponent has Dragonite, Chien-Pao, Fluttermane, Lycanroc, Tyranitar, and Amoonguss. So my opponent has a lot of really good Pokemon, but the Pokemon that I fear the most and that I think are going to be led are going to be that Tyranitar and Lycanroc. The Lycanroc's going to outspeed my entire team, and the flinches are really annoying to deal with, and I just don't have a great way to deal with those two. I'm going to be bringing Iron Valiant in the lead since it does have access to Wide Guard, so I can avoid being flinched on the first turn while Iron Valiant's on the field. Next to it, I'll bring Fluttermane. Lycanroc will typically run a Focus Sash, so I want spread damage to break it, and I think Fluttermane is the best for the job. I also like Gyarados here to intimidate their physical attackers, and versus the rest of their team, a Dragonite would do really well if I'm able to set it up, though versus Amoonguss I'd have to commit that Terra to attack, unless I also bring Chien-Pao. Chien-Pao is going to be good into that Tyranitar if it goes for the Terra Flying. If it doesn't go for the Terra Flying, I can have the Secret Sword hit it, and that way I also don't have to commit the Terra on Gyarados to beat Amoonguss. Dragonite didn't seem like the best here since I don't have Inner Focus, so I can't eat flinches. But if I go for Extreme Speed into Lycanroc, I guess I could avoid getting flinched altogether. Chi-Yu has a problem where Rock Slides would destroy it, so maybe I could have brought it here if I Terra'd, but I think they're just going to go for another Rock Slide on the Tyranitar if I brought it in the lead, so I don't know if it was the best here. And you know, I put Wide Guard on Iron Valiant. If there's a chance to use it, I should probably try it out. They are going to be leading the Tyranitar and the Lycanroc here, so I'm just going to go stick with my game plan, go with a Dazzling Gleam to break the Sash, and then a Wide Guard to block the Rock Slide if it's coming out. It's possible my opponent just predicts this, because it is a little bit unusual to have Iron Valiant out, maybe. So maybe they could have just gone for an attack onto Iron Valiant, but I don't really have Protect on that slot or a switch in, so I don't really have any options at this point. My opponent's going to go for the Terra here, and it's going to be on Tyranitar. And it's a pretty standard Terra Flying. Most Tyranitars are running Terra Flying. but they protect on the Lycanroc, so they should be reading into my wide guard here. That's fine, it was always a possibility. I did want to try out the wide guard since I did put on the Iron Valiant. Dazzling Gleam's gonna be hitting this Tyranitar though. It's not super effective since it did go for the Terra Flying, and so we don't do that much damage into it. It's probably an Assault Vest. And here's the Terra Blast into my Iron Valiant probably. And yeah, that's easily going to pick up the KO. So RIP Iron Valiant showed up and fainted right away. But we at least get a switch in. I'm going to be bringing in Chien-Pao so I can threaten the Tyranitar. Nothing in the back really wants to take like a Dazzling Gleam or an Ice Spinner, so they don't really have any switch-ins for this. As long as I'm able to dodge a flinch, I should be fine. And to take the Rock Slide a little bit better, I'm going to go for a Terra Ghost on my Chien-Pao. I thought a Rock Slide and then like Sand Chip would just KO me, so that's why I went for the Terra Ghost. And then I'll just go for another Dazzling Gleam on the Flutter Mane, but I feel like I probably should have just went for a Moonblast into the Lycanroc instead, since this Ice Spinner should always just KO that Tyranitar. Of course, if they do go for attacks, my Chien-Pao is lowering my own Flutter Mane's defense, so it's gonna hurt a lot more. Lycanroc's going for a Rock Slide, and Flutter Mane goes down to 2 HP. Dazzling Gleam is able to hit them for a little bit, but once again, we faint to Life Orb Recoil. Chien-Pao goes for an Ice Spinner. This is going to KO the Tyranitar, but I probably would have KO'd even after the first Dazzling Gleam. I probably did not need the second, but that's okay. But my last Pokemon is going to be that Gyarados. I'm going to be dropping my opponent's attack with the Intimidate, but they should still be able to deal decent damage into my team with that Rock Slide. And my own Chien-Pao is going to be dropping my Gyarados' defense too, so that's happening. And my opponent's also going to be sending in a Chien-Pao. So I don't think they're going to be sashed on this Chien-Pao because they do have Sand on their team. That'd be kind of like shooting yourself in the foot a little bit. I'm going to go for a Dragon Dance this turn, which is a bit greedy. And then I'll protect on the Chien-Pao because I think they're going to Sucker Punch that slot. And I did not want to get Sucker Punched just yet. I should be able to live a Rock Slide with this Intimidate drop. But I just went for the Dragon Dance because I thought I would need the extra speed in order to win the game. Like, a Waterfall would probably get me the KO, but then they're going to have faster Pokemon in the back that I'll have to deal with. And I think I'll need a +1 Gyarados to beat that. Chien-Pao is going to go for Protect this turn. And they do go for a Sucker Punch. I don't actually know where it's targeted, but I would assume it's at Chien-Pao. And a Rock Slide is not enough to KO my Gyarados. As long as we don't flinch, which we don't, we're able to get this Dragon Dance up. We're going to be able to outspeed my opponent's Pokemon, just not that Sandrush Lycanroc. But this turn I'm going to be striking. I'm going to be going for a Sucker Punch onto their Lycanroc. I think their Chien-Pao will still be going for a Sucker Punch into mine. So I just need to win a potential speed tie here to survive and maybe win the game. And then I'll go for a Waterfall onto their Chien-Pao as well. But they win the speed tie and Sucker Punch my Chien-Pao, getting the KO. So as long as this Rock Slide hits, I'm going to be losing the battle. Turns out a +1 Waterfall doesn't KO their Chien-Pao anyways, but that at least weakens them a bit, so I could potentially go for a Sucker Punch speed tie again the following turn, maybe stall out some Sand Chip. Yeah, pretty close game. We had a bad start, but we still had a chance to win at the end. I think I probably should have went for a Sucker Punch on the previous turn. I think this game came down to a Sucker Punch speed tie either way, but I needed to KO the Lycanroc before it dealt that much damage into my Gyarados. Because after that Rock Slide, my Gyarados is definitely in Sucker Punch range, and then I think they'll just be able to clean up my team. But yeah, Wide Guard Iron Valiant, I'm not sure if that's the move. I think I prefer Iron Valiant if I just had 3 attacks in Protect. And that's going to be the last battle of the showcase. Now I'm going to go over my thoughts on the team. So I didn't show every battle that I had, so some of the information is going to be coming from some other battles. I think Intimidate is a bit awkward to face for this team. Like Dragonite and Chien-Pao, even Gyarados and Iron Valiant, they all don't like Intimidate, and you don't really have the best switch-ins for attacks on this team. I think I'll need to consider how much Intimidate I'm facing. I think Multiscale Choice Band is cool, but if you take an Intimidate, you're just locked into a move, so Inner Focus would be better in some situations, maybe with different teammates to help mitigate damage. I don't like being locked into moves when I do have that Stomping Tantrum. I want to be able to use it after I Extreme Speed into a Ghost type or something like that, or into a Quick Guard. I think Facade would also be really interesting to try out, since Burns kind of hurt this team and Arcanine is pretty prevalent. And with Terra Normal Facade, you're going to be hitting it crazy hard, albeit pretty slowly. I like the idea of a Moongus with Multiscale Dragonite, since you could potentially Pollen Puff to get your Multiscale back, so that's another bonus of Multiscale. The Flutter Mane is super fast and powerful, but I think it might be better to get off 2 to 3 medium attacks than 1 or 2 big attacks, and also having the flexibility to take a hit if you need to. The Gyarados is pretty nice, but I am scared of stuff like Iron Bundle and Iron Hands. Otherwise, I do like it. I think Gyarados with Ting-Lu is pretty nice. That way you have Intimidate for physical attackers, Vessel of Ruin for special attackers, and you also have a ground type to take electric moves, though both of them don't like Iron Bundle. The Iron Valiant didn't have a great showing here, but I think it has a lot of potential as an attacker. It has great attack and special attack, so maybe a mix set would be interesting to take advantage of both Beads of Ruin and Sword of Ruin. Maybe just a 3 attack and protect set would be nice, maybe with the Booster Energy or Life Orb. Those could both work. I could switch it around with the Flutter Mane's item as well. I could experiment with that a bit. Chi is able to do a ton of damage, but I think it might work a little bit better with some speed control available with Tailwind or Iron Bundle, and having access to moves like Protect would be nice. I think having a Terra that's not purely defensive would also be nice, so maybe a cool type in Terra Blast might be interesting. But yeah, those are my thoughts on this team, but I actually have another team that I've been experimenting with that is kind of similar, that uses some of the feedback from this episode, and some stuff that I wanted to try out, so I'll give you guys a sneak peek of the mons. Yep, there's no Dragonite here, but I do have some secret tech. I'll tell you one move, and it's gonna be Faint on Scizor. I call it my baby Extreme Speed, but this is the team I'll be featuring in the next video, and until then, bye bye.